Don't engage alone. We do this together.
Yeah, we got it. We got it.
New 52 booklet.
Somebody clip this one.
Welcome to Comics League movie night. I am Jared, and today we are discussing the Doom that came to Gotham. I'm just sending out the links to the men, and by the way, Pika, you should have the link to the show in your Twitter inbox right now, because I believe you did want to join us for this discussion. So we're talking Batman, the Doom that came to Gotham, which is one of the... Pika can probably weigh in on this more, but this is one of those occasions when they make an animated DC movie and it perfectly captures like the spirit of the comic book really well. So there is that. So this is based on a 3-issue Elseworlds story. So, well, speaking of Elseworlds being brought back to DC. So this is based on Elseworlds run, which is basically Batman versus the characters of H.P. Lovecraft, essentially. So what they do with that is, what I like about this movie is how they bring the creatures and like intersect them with Batman's like origin, because ultimately this is the origin of Batman. During his travels, because his parents die, then he travels the world for like I think like 10 years or so. The point is he travels for a period of time, and then he starts to learn from all these masters. But then at this time, what is established here, when we see like Cobblepot for the first time, what this is showing, he also discovered this like, I don't know, curse upon the land. And I believe actually, it's this curse upon the land that he just discovers. Then he goes back to Gotham, and he dons the bat suit for the first time, and then he goes through the adventure, which by the way features Talia al Ghul, which is really cool. I like Talia as a character. And so basically what this is about, I'm going to go through the plot basically. So Batman has 3 people. Oh, and by the way, Pika's here, so let me just let him in. Hey, Pika, what's up, brother?
Hey,
how you doing?
I'm not echoing or going static.
You're all good.
Okay, good.
So what'd you think of the movie compared to the comic?
If you have seen my video, you know it's pretty much almost 1-to-1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm familiar, but basically with the story of the comic, and I'm like, yeah, this pretty much nailed it, like astoundingly well. The other thing I like about it, Pika, is that because this story starts off in like the time period when like Batman is traveling the world, right? In other words, this is kind of in his origin phase, right? So I like how they like intersect that.
Yeah, it's almost like I wouldn't know how to say year 1 or to year 0 or something like that.
Essentially that. Yeah, exactly. I also like, so Batman's little wards are Kylie Cain, which that's Cassandra Cain.
Yeah, Cassandra or Carrie Kelly. Could be like a hybrid of both, or maybe also because Tim Drake was in the comic, also be a hybrid of all 3 characters.
Probably. Then we have Dick Grayson and Sanjay J. Todd. I'm like, hello, Jason Todd.
That's a funny thing, by the way, which I realized while I was editing the video on it. There's the character is officially named in the movie as Sanjay Todd, but they still end up making the mistake of sometimes referring to him as Todd or Mr. Todd.
Well, probably because it's like, okay, so this is kind of Batman adjacent, so we're like, how do we like show people who these characters basically are? And it's like, okay, just pronounce it Todd. But I also like, so the thing about it, I also like Oliver Queen's like role in this because Green Arrow was in this movie as well. And I like how his costume is basically the Crusaders.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
that's interesting. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's basically like those 12th century Crusaders because that's exactly what he is trying to be. Like he says in the movie itself that he's trying to, and he carries the arrows of Saint Sebastian. Actually, the knife is actually what he also had as an extra weapon. That is something that wasn't in the comic, or actually I didn't notice it in the comic.
Oh, interesting. But I like how his whole thing is that he's making up for the sins of his father because, okay, so the basic thing is his father, Bruce's father, Cobblepot, and Langstrom are actually like blessed with eternal life, basically, and because they had made a blood sacrifice to Cthulhu, apparently.
Yeah, or the adjacent stand-in of whatever it is. Or it could be actually something that when I was doing my video on the movie and the comic to compare it, I tried to look at any kind of references to all the kind of Cthulhu mythos and all the different versions of the monsters in there. There were too many names to remember, and that's probably goes with the whole thing.
Yeah.
Too. That Yog-Sotha could have been basically a made up or actually be an existing monster in there. It's pretty much like Yig-Noggoroth, who was in the opening scene.
Yeah, they're probably like, you know what, just it's Cthulhu, but we're gonna call it something else. You know what we're referring to again.
Yeah.
And then this whole thing, so Batman, Nightwing is killed by Killer Croc in this movie instantly. So I was like, well, he's not Nightwing, but still.
Okay, both actually, yeah, they were.
Yeah, so I'm like,
yeah, Mr. Freeze or Mr. Freeze killed Jason, and
then basically this whole movie. Hey, what's up, David? Is Batman fighting against Ra's and Talia al Ghul, who want to like bring this god into this realm, and I definitely dug this as a usage of those two because Ra's being an immortal, he would be involved in like all this elder god stuff.
Yeah, it's also one of the oldest version of Ra's and Talia that are in there because in the most modern mainstream comics, they have been like before Infinite Crisis, they were like 600 years old. But then after Infinite Crisis happens, it was turned into 700 years. But even in the movie itself, I was rewatching it before you started, while I was also editing the thing I was doing. There was that mention that Talia said that she was 823 years old.
Yeah. Well, she looks great for her age, but I like this one. I also like how they didn't try and go with the whole romance option. In fact, actually, she when they're fighting, she goes, "In another life, we could have been something more." So I'm like, okay, I see what you're.
That was actually in the comic. They actually tried to lean onto it more because in the movie there was that the initial meeting with they had where she had Killer Croc. Or that version of Croc as her bodyguard. In the comic, they managed to capture Batman to be their prisoner, and Batman was there to witness as Ra's was resurrected or brought back to life. And then Talia was always like I would. Talia was like she would like to let Batman go and do as he says, but she just can't do it. And Ra's also gave Batman the opportunity to join him, and basically or as a child he just had, "Are you willing to live as a slave?" And Batman just no.
Yeah. The other thing I like this use of Two-Face because he starts off, he's a totally normal dude, and then he gets like attacked by Poison Ivy, and then what starts off as like a Poison Ivy scratch turns into you're now the portal to the Elder God realm.
So
I'm like,
yeah, that's one of those very Lovecraftian body horror stuff.
Yeah, and I think the movie did a great job of like capturing that. Because here's the thing, the movie, while it's an animated movie, it's still kind of creepy, and the way they managed to like keep that creepiness, even though it's animated, is like really well done, because a lot of animated movies get cartoony to a degree.
Yeah. It's mostly also happens to be with the lighting and shading of how it's also done. Like even in the later parts of it, where they have the part where the elder god is coming through the threshold, they pretty much make Gotham come across like, if you have played Bloodborne, it looks like Yarnam after Brom the vacuous spider has been defeated, all with the blood moon and darks and a contrasting skyline.
Yeah, so there's that. I also like, so the overall thing of this is that this elder being tells Bruce, hey, listen, dude, in order to beat this, you're gonna have to like get rid of Bruce Wayne. Essentially, it's kind of funny. It's kind of like the ending to Arkham Knight, because Bruce is like, okay, I have to kill Bruce Wayne, but then I also have to become Batman fully. And you notice he doesn't say I'm Batman until he becomes like the Bat creature.
Yeah, until leading up to that point, he was more of a Bruce Wayne wearing the costume and doing all the investigations. It wasn't even like a secret identity that he was using. It was basically just like a traveling cloth and something like, because he was hearing voices already. It could say that he was also affected by the madness that most Cthulhu, most protagonists in the Cthulhu methods are suffering from. Like some off time I have been trying to play Sinking City, and there was that one. The protagonist also has those visions and voices that Batman or Bruce in this case had. So he was up to that point until the whole transformation happened. Yeah, he was just Bruce, but then when he went through the metamorphosis, or how would you refer to it? That's when he became Batman.
Yeah, I also really like, I'm kind of jumping around real quick, but I guess we'll talk about the characters first. I like the way they used Barbara as, first off, the role where she works best as Oracle, but she's a literal Oracle. I was like, oh, that is cool.
Yes, that's cool. Not to mention the fact that she was in the comic, she was pretty much just meeting Bruce at some random location that was supposed to be like above the whole ancient reptilian city. In the movie, she was literally just an inmate in Arkham, which, like I already brought this up, the whole Arkham name was brought from Cthulhu methods. Denny O'Neil and I don't remember which, some other DC writer, they took the name from there as a
cool. I didn't know that.
As an homage to Lovecraft.
That's cool. I didn't know that. I also like she speaks to like a voice box, because apparently she had like an accent, like destroyed her vocal cords. And then I like, of all the DC characters to throw in here, it makes sense that they go, okay, so let's bring in like Etrigan the Demon, because we're fighting Lovecraft. Who else would make sense here? And I saw that. It was really cool.
Yeah. It's also like funny that he was utilized in the movie. He was basically looked like any other demon or demon method put words. But then when they used it in the comic, he still looked like Etrigan, dressed in the red tunic and cloak. But he was also kind of, the drawing style what they would use. He was also made to look like a troll who go troll under the bridge demanding toll from passers-by.
That's cool. I like that. And so basically Batman has this big battle, and he literally, actually, it was kind of funny, Batman turns into Man-Bat in this movie, and then he stays like that forever. Like, this version of Batman is a bat creature permanently, and that's really cool, because he turns into what the criminals of Gotham always turned him into, pretty much.
Yes, and that was also, I was trying to watch also in the movie again and compare it to the comic, because in the comic the art style showed his skin pretty much getting grayer and brittle, and like he was pretty much as it goes on. He died a couple of times during the story, but was then revived or brought back to life, because he had a preset destiny to stop the coming of Yog-Sotha. Like, for example, in the first meeting composition with Ra's, when Ra's brought the whole plague of reptiles, it was so suggested that Bruce actually died during it.
Mhm.
but he didn't stay dead. He was brought back to life because he used to be in the comic itself. He says, "I used to be a human, but now I'm just Batman."
That makes sense. And also in the movie, they kind of hint because Batman falls into like a green like pool, so you kind of think, hey, maybe it's Lazarus Pit or something like that.
Yeah, it could be that, or it could be just like the. You know what? There's this one change that the movie did.
Mhm.
Killer Croc, he was in the movie. He was pretty much like a nameless throwable goon who was just killed off at one point. In the
Mhm.
comic itself, he had a name, Ludwig Bryn,
Mhm.
and he had originally been the character who brought Thomas Wayne, Oliver Queen, Kirk Langstrom, and so on, those people into the ancient city below, and he was and they were doing those rituals that they ended up regretting, and they basically just beat him up and left him down there. He drank that green water and fungi that was there and turned into Killer Croc in that way. That was his origin in the comic that
Oh,
was
that's
cut
cool.
from the movie.
That's cool. I didn't know that was the origin for that. That actually works really well. Wow.
Yeah. Although with the fungi, it would be you could imagine he was probably could have been pitched as a version of Swamp Thing before being switched out.
He would have also worked as like that version of Swamp Thing too. So they could have gone with the Swamp Thing route because of how connected to like the green, particularly Swamp Thing is. So that actually could have worked. Now, let me ask you this: what's like because this is the thing you always put in my comments. So, what is the thing that this movie changed that you think is like was an unnecessary change?
Unnecessary. Actually, I think there was this one thing that was that they think was the absent. Actually, I don't think it was unnecessary, but there was an unexplained cut of certain stuff that was there and then wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
Like for example, actually now that you think about it, in the comic, Batman did use a gun.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because his parents were killed with a knife.
Okay,
So he didn't
wouldn't
have
have the whole gun thing.
any phobias against guns. So he could have just used guns.
What's up, Tavia? But yeah, that's a good point. I guess.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like when he was confronting Talia for the second time after he went to the first tried to get the Necronomicon stand in, and she fled, and then he confronted her again. He was literally confronting her with a gun.
Mm-hmm.
That's in the comic.
Well, I guess they changed that because they're still under they're still trying to tell people that Batman doesn't use guns. So I'm like, well, some versions do. Hello, and what's up, Tavia? How you doing? But yeah, and there was so yeah, that's a very interesting change. I didn't know that they did that. But what would you say was like your favorite? And Tavia, they changed it because DC does not want people to know that Batman has used guns many times, even though we've all seen the Michael Keaton Batman movie and the Zack Snyder movie. So there you go. But let me ask you this, Pico. What's your favorite scene in the movie?
Favorite. I could also think it was maybe also Oliver's last stand, because Oliver, the way how he was made in the movie, he was given a more heroic death in the movie, and whereas in the comic he was pretty much just one-shotted out when Poison Ivy came to kill him. But in the movie, he was practically given a pretty much good chance to hold his ground, get some shots in, and then fight until he just pulled the grenade and.
Yeah, that's the thing too. The design for Poison Ivy was utterly terrifying. Like, I would love to see what was inside these guys' mind when they created the character design for this. I'm trying to get the character design for this. Okay, here we go. And Yeah, I'm gonna share my screen.
Well,
real
Mike
quick.
Mignola
Yeah, go ahead.
and
Mhm.
Richard Pace were the ones who wrote the original comic.
Yeah, look at that.
Uh,
That is utterly terrifying.
Uh.
What were you saying, Pika?
Yeah, there were Richard Pace and Mike Mignola who wrote the original comic, and the adaptation is credited to have been written by some, or the screenplay credit is to on someone who named Jase Rikki. But they are still credited, so it's basically those people. And Mike Mignola is the creator of Hellboy, so.
I was about to say it makes sense that he'd be really cool, good at creating really, really terrifying characters. Tevia says, honestly, my favorite scene of this movie are the horror stuff, but as for the movie itself, I found this movie to be so disappointing. Hey, why is that? But in terms of my favorite scene, I like the Oliver Queen scene, but I also like where he turns into the bat creature and he goes, "I am Batman." And he just like goes to town. I was like, okay, that's a really cool design. And like how they harken back to before, where he's like, you have to become a creature of bats in order to basically beat this monster. Because then, and what's interesting, this movie really like taps into that whole can Batman ever have a normal life like discussion that goes on with the fandom. Because according to this movie, no, he doesn't. He said, mostly because the story itself fell all over the place, and plus the ending was super confused me that I got lost. Are we talking about the last? But yeah, we're talking about the Doom that came to Gotham. And Tevia says, well, mostly because the story itself fell all over the place. Okay, and plus the ending super confused me. It sounds like, well, see, here's the thing. Is that more of a complaint about the comic or the movie? Because as Pika and I've said, it's pretty much the comic.
Yeah, 1-to-1 almost. Not 100%, but close enough.
It's very close enough that we appreciate it. It's not like where they had like Hush and they changed the Riddler to Hush.
Yeah.
That was stupid as hell.
Yeah. Those of you who have seen my last video where I did on Hush, I pretty much said in that how they could have kept that ending, but changed it so that just make Jason be Hush at the end. Like instead of having like Riddler be both the brains and the muscle of the operation, have him be the mastermind, and then he was controlling Clayface in the movie when he was in Arkham. So have him control Jason as a dug up revenant, and then give Batman an illusion of a chance to save him, and then have him die because Catwoman just sees that that man is dead, and then that would have been a more believable way for him to break up at the end.
Yeah, that works because it just seems so forced in that movie. By the way, I loved my cameo in that video. By the way, that was great. I have great cameos whenever we discuss Lois Lane, so I appreciate that. Yeah, Riddler as Hush was so stupid. That was the dumbest way to bring to have Hush go by. Their excuse was we didn't want the to do the same story because then you know who Hush is, and we're like, yeah, we know that because we've read the book. We want to see that adapted. It's really that
but
simple.
even if they were like there was the thing also what I said in my video, like there were some plans for Hush to be under the hood before under the hood became a thing. Like Jason was supposed to be brought back to life there, but the writers apparently they got chicken cold feet. And then they rewrote the ending so that Thomas Elliott's death was fake and he was Hush instead. And then they had Paul Dini do the whole sequel stories to explain the background information and better backstories on why it would make more sense to have Thomas Elliott be Hush. But if the animated movie was like a redo or a rewrite of it, then just make Jason be Hush. Not as the brains of the operation, that was always Riddler, but have him be the Brawn, the dragon, the big bad, like Mr. X from Resident Evil 2.
By fun fact, remember in Under the Red Hood when they retconned that was Jason? I mean, in the comic, when they retconned that was Jason, it's just what happens that he switched places with Clayface when he got separated from Batman. Yeah, I'm like, so they could have done that.
Yeah, that they could have done that. And by the way, I'm still in the middle of editing that video. I'm like
Looks
10
fun.
minutes or so left of the visuals,
Mhm.
and then I need to do the end credits because it's to show it the trilogy aspect of it.
Speaking of cameos, that reminds me, we seriously. Yeah, I'm sorry, Tevi. I know I keep delaying that. It's just I got a lot of stuff. I'm confused. I mean, I'm like backed up, and we will do that. I promise. Yeah, the retcon seemed confusion. Yeah, yeah, it was. But going back to this movie, I think what's interesting about this one, and I feel like I like when movies actually put an effort into recreating the animation style to make the animation style look like the comic book art. They did this with like Superman, Batman, Apocalypse, and
and the Public Enemies. Yeah, they do. Yeah, both of those movies did that.
I feel like this one did a pretty decent job of doing this.
Yeah, it didn't perfectly how do the whole, but it found some ways to substitute. Like I said, that Bruce's skin was gray and brittle and decaying, also that like coming off, so that it could like foreshadow his eventual metamorphosis to be turning into a man. But they did it was somewhat they could substitute by having it be gray and gaunt with few scars here and there.
And then Tevi also brings up that the Killing Joke kind of did that too, to a degree. Yeah, I do agree with you on that one. Let me see. I'm trying to pull up some trivia for the Doom that came to Gotham, so we can go through that. Let me pull that up. But in the meantime, yeah, this was the thing about this is that this is one of those occasions, because I think that. See, DC even brought back the Elseworlds title recently, but the thing about DC is best suited to like just take all of your Elseworlds books and just make all these animated movies about them, because you could do like Speeding Bullets and the one where Batman becomes a Green Lantern. You just go all the way down the line. The Nail.
Some of those actually could be done like how Marvel did with the what if stories, that they could be like 20-minute episodes, because they are not long enough to be made.
They're not that long. Yeah,
into
like
75 or 90-minute movies. Those movies, and if they try to make them like that long, that they also end up needing to put some filler stuff there that just ends up making it go.
Hey, what's up, Sean Franklin? Yeah, 100%. And yeah. That's actually a better idea, honestly, because yeah, you're right. A lot of these are like really thin, like practically floppy length comic books. And I'm still pissed we haven't gotten a Kingdom Come animated movie, because we're supposed to get that, but Warner Brothers rejected it. Well, that's because Warner Brothers are a bunch of morons. So there you go, right there. Because can you imagine an animated movie recreating Alex Ross's style?
That would be like, imagine the. Okay, that actually has what kind of budget? How much budget would that require?
Oh, geez, that's a good question.
they would need to outsource it to like how many animation studios, or to make it look as photorealistic as it is.
Well, well, they could kind of embellish it, and because what they could do, they could kind of make it like. I mean, the closest like representation of what this could look like would be like what's the name of that League of Legends animated show? That's on Netflix. League. Arcane. Essentially, just doing the Arcane style, kind of, because that's like painterly enough that you can like use that to like at least look close to you can use that as a base and then build off that. Ian brings up a great point. Dark Knight's freaking metal.
Yeah, that's something that would very much be complemented by that kind of format, because I think when you look at the whole the main 6 issues main series and all the tie-ins that it got. Like that, having it be a series that would stretch it better in making it be like be very much tell the story properly, and then at the end, like the final 5th and 6th issues, those issues also felt like they had to cut. It would stay in the page count.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Even the Joker's appearance at the end, like he just showed up without any. Well, not. No build up is okay, but at least as long as it's explained how he got there.
Yeah, because
Like,
they're
by the
kind
way,
of yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Go ahead.
By the way, a couple of years ago, before I started doing YouTube stuff, I was honing my writing skills by doing fan fiction stuff. And one of the fan fictions I did was pretty much a Dark Knight's Metal rewrite. It was 20 chapters long rewrite where I tried to do a what if story of how the essentially Batman was taken. I have probably told this to some people already, but I'll get it again. Batman was taken out from the mainstream DC universe, and so he wasn't the wagon that was needed for the Barbatos and the Dark Knights to get from the Dark Multiverse to the main universe. So they needed to do kind of detour through the on the other side, and in a random world in the hyper time outside of the DC multiverse, and that random world they end up going was a version of Pokemon World where I had aged up the characters into how old they would be if time moved realistically long.
Wow.
Essentially Ash Ketchum was 20 years old, and it was during the Sun and Moon era when he was in Alola region, and basically he was at school there, and I just rewrote that into a version of him going to college.
So basically, it's Batman meets Pokemon.
Essentially, he was an isekai, in an isekai sense. He was put into the Pokemon world at the same time as Batman Who Laughs, Red Death, The Drowned,
Devastator, and
the
God of War one,
Merciless, and
I think
Dawnbreaker and so on, and all of those. Even in the end, I managed to fit in the Grim Knight because during one point, and also I did it with the usual with the same kind of format with some anime studios use, like 10 episodes were 10 chapters were basically like the first 12 episodes of an anime, and the rest were pretty much like the latter half. Like there was a middle desperate situation where they thought he died or something. Like basically what happened in Dark Knight's Metal also. Batman was pulled into the Dark Multiverse or some other stuff happened. I'll send you a link. You can probably, if you're willing, if you're interested to read it, you can probably go.
Yeah, I'll check it out. But yeah, and what's interesting, going back to our idea about series and like what ifs, what if they did into the dark tales from the dark multiverse? But that's what if. That's their thing on what if. What if, but the stories go really badly, like they do Hush, they do Death of Superman, they do Infinite Crisis.
Yeah, that's actually the Hush storyline. Actually, it was the story that they made. That wasn't bad on itself, but mostly if the stories were supposed to be, what if the bad thing happened in it? Like, imagine if the Hush Dark Knight's Dark Multiverse story was that when Batman was trying to kill the Joker, imagine if Commissioner Gordon was late and he showed up after Batman had already done it.
That's a good one. Yeah, you're right, because that story has literally the actual story has nothing to do with Hush. It's like Thomas Elliot basically becomes Bruce Wayne. That's what it is. But I'm like, that actually works a lot better. Batman kills the Joker, and it's the ramifications of what happens because of that. It would kind of be like in that one scene Under the Red Hood where Batman goes, if I kill one person, I'll kill everybody. And I'm like, maybe you shouldn't be a superhero if you're that close to murdering people.
Yeah, that's pretty much why I already had made the no murder rule update video.
Yeah.
And also I have come to actually try to think about it, that it could be like that where if those people say that Batman is somewhat mental, somewhat insane on some level, that it could be like say that he is mentally unable or psychologically unable to commit murder. Like we can see him like do an accident or do something that he is not aware of. But if he's put into a conscious situation where he has to, or he is told to kill someone, then he can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much like I'm talking about it I have the Under the Red Hood video coming out. In that situation, I say that Batman is psychologically unable to commit murder, and it leads to this.
That works. That makes a lot of sense. But here's the thing: would it be murder though if he's killing the Joker?
It would still, unfortunately, be because he wouldn't try to differentiate it, and even if he tried to, he would come to as it and do it. If he's doing it to someone who is defenseless and someone who can fight for themselves, then it would automatically be murder. If the Joker but if he's given like the excuse of defending himself, then it's not murder. And in Batman's mind, it wouldn't also be murder at the moment. Later, he would try to justify himself over it here like this and that. Like let's go with the Dark Knight Returns for how the Joker died there. There's still the debate over if Batman did kill the Joker when he snapped his neck, or if the Joker snapped his neck himself, and Batman just hallucinated that the Joker was still alive and did it himself. That's something that I would be more okay with, that it was never confirmed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, have it be this or that, but don't say which one is it.
Yeah.
And even in that issue 138, where the main Batman was going through different worlds,
mm-hmm.
the Dark Knight Returns Batman telling him that no, Joker killed himself. That might as well. I don't take that as a confirmation. That's just how that Batman has convinced himself what happened.
It's the unreliable narrator.
Unreliable narrator telling it.
Yeah, that's actually really cool. I didn't know that. First off, I didn't know that was an actual debate, and I could see either way going through that. I've long said, okay. I get the real reason why he doesn't kill the Joker is because DC wants to be able to still publish Joker books, but ignoring that, Batman should justifiably just kill the Joker's the one villain, because the Joker has committed close to mass genocide at this point, and he doesn't show any like signs of like rehabilitation except in Sean Murphy's universe. At which point I said, off with his head.
That is actually also another interesting point too. When I did a Killing Joke earlier this year, I noticed some things that were in the comic, and also in the way how the Joker was drawn in most scenes. Like, there were the most scenes where he wasn't smiling. He was defeated and not showing any confidence or something. Like at the end of the Killing Joke, where after the bang flag came out of the gun and he was trying to shoot to do, I would like to imagine that at that moment the Joker was briefly sane.
Mm-hmm.
And if we go by the Killing Joke origin story being by that version's origin story, looking at how his life was previously and what it has been turned into now, there could be this kind of version of the Joker who wants to die, because everything he does, but because of his former personality being as it was, he doesn't have the mental fortitude or strength to do it himself. So he's basically, everything he does to Batman, to Commissioner Gordon, to Barbara, to Robin, everyone in Gotham, he does that to give them reason to kill him.
That's interesting. I like that.
Yeah, that could be something of an interesting method to his madness.
It's essentially like death by cop, essentially, except it's death by Batman. He's trying to push someone to murder him.
Yes. And every time they don't do it and he laughs at their face, that might as well not be laughing, but rather he is crying over yet another failed attempt.
And what's interesting, you could apply that to the Injustice universe, that he figured out that Batman is not going to do it. So he messed with Superman because he figured, hey, if I mess with Superman enough, he'll do it. There
Yeah.
you go. That actually works really well. That's a fantastic theory. Ah, that's interesting.
But it only works with the Killing Joke Joker because that origin story and past life would match up with it. If you like compare to the DC animated universe Joker, who was a nameless hitman working for someone else, then that way it wouldn't work. Hey, JJheat.
Flame on. How's everybody doing tonight?
We're doing very well. So JJheat, and actually just came in. What did you think of the Doom that came to Gotham movie?
A lot better than I thought it was going to be. Granted, the original source material is a core classic of the Elseworlds, but I really thought they were going to butcher this animated adaptation, like Injustice. I really thought they were going to butcher it.
You know what's kind of funny? I was watching a video about the Injustice movie today. This person was arguing that it's criminally underrated because when you look at the Injustice comic series, here's why. Hear me out on this. No one acts realistically the way they would act. Because it's like Barry Allen just goes along with a dictator Superman. And here's the thing. I said this with Britt on Super Wonder Legacy. At the very least, this Wonder Woman actually acted like Wonder Woman because, yeah, she would be like, okay, she's with Superman. Then eventually she starts to realize maybe Superman's not this paragon that I'm supposed to be following. So my characters, for the most part, act more consistent with their comic counterparts than the actual Injustice comics do. So in a way, it's a better movie.
Yes, it probably could be if they were the mainstream characters and not Elseworlds counterparts.
True. It is the thing about it's adapting Injustice.
Not a bad point of view though.
That's why I maintain I don't think it's the best animated movie. I don't think it's the worst. I think a lot of people are being a little too hard on this movie because they expect it to be screen for panel to screen for Injustice, and I'm like, okay, still.
And not to mention they were trying to go in a different direction with it. Excuse me, to where it's about second chances, redemption, forgiveness.
Oh, you mean a new direction?
I walked right into that, didn't I?
Yes, you did. You did. But go on, JJheat. But yeah, essentially, it was they did completely change the story. Superman turns good at the end, which I still maintain that should have been an ending for Injustice 2, where Superman's like, you know what, Bruce, you're right. Let's end this war right now and go back to being friends.
They had to justify Chapter 13 and the whole Batman versus Superman dichotomy. I get it. It's marketable, a David versus Goliath story. But do you really need a Batman versus Superman chapter this late in the narrative?
And again, by the way, you had a Batman versus Superman chapter. The first chapter of the game, you fight Superman as Batman.
Yeah, it's mostly because if Batman fights and wins, then what? Or if the protagonist fights the antagonist at the beginning of the story and wins, then what's the point of seeing them fight again? Because the antagonist is supposed to win in the beginning, and the protagonist is supposed to then build themselves up to fight and to win in the next round.
Yeah, and fair point. And I will give the more NetherRealm this. They actually stage as if it's Bruce's testimony, minus some altered details here and there because he doesn't want his son Damian to get too much prison time. So he alters the details a bit, the events of the Arkham riot, and you see that altered take going into the events of Chapter 1. And it's a plot hole. Oh, it's inconsistent. No, this is literally Bruce stretching the truth and a testimony and a backhanded gesture to save his son from further prison time, even though he was technically manipulated by Superman and the regime at the time.
Yeah, but again, Damian's the only one who kind of acts consistent with his character in the games and comics for Injustice, as opposed to
he's a little shit
to that degree. Yeah, but everyone else, like especially all the Justice Leaguers, I'm like, wait a minute here. It's like Hal Jordan. Pretty sure Hal Jordan's not going to become a Yellow Lantern.
I mean, red for rage or indigo. indigo for compassion, maybe. I just don't see fear specifically.
No, but it's like even with that, he's like, okay, all the superheroes are like, you know what, I'm gonna go side with
How would the
Superman.
comic
Sure, he's
actually manage
murdering
to
people.
make-
But I'm sorry,
The
go ahead.
comics managed to make some of those
Mhm.
turns into somewhat believable by having them build up to in the long format.
Mhm. Yeah,
If you
and Dan-
if you have to tell it as a beginning to end and kind of that kind of stuff, then it probably sounds unbelievable. But if you go in like step by step as how it goes, then that's pretty much the road to darkness or hero's journey into becoming a villain story. Then that is how you could see it believable.
And Daniel says, I kind of was disappointed with the movie. Batman is not Batman anymore. Batman is cunning, intelligence, not a beast. Well, he was still cunning and intelligent. He was Man-Bat, essentially. And it's not funny, JJheat. They basically turned Batman into Man-Bat. So they basically pulled the old switcheroo right there.
Yeah, but
Ironic.
it's basically still goes by the like Lovecraftian myth that it's the body horror that he looks like a monster, but he still has the man's mind.
Which, again, this movie did a fantastic job with its animation and everything of communicating that Lovecraftian body horror, like with Harvey Dent turning into a portal. I bring that up again because that was just so cool. Green Arrow being like impaled on like a wall. Batman becoming a Man-Bat. They did such a great job because, again, this animated movie, actually, what was it rated? Because I think that, because I don't think this was rated R.
No, it was PG-13.
Which is funny because here's the thing. This movie feels like it should be rated R, but they did it in a way where it's still scary enough. It still communicates the source material of the book, but did it in a way, in a PG-13 way. Somehow they managed to communicate that, and I thought that was really good.
Would you say this movie was better than Gotham by Gaslight?
Oh, that's a good question. What about you, Pika?
Yeah, I would say it was better in that sense because at least this made it to be the story based on the comic, and with Gotham by Gaslight, they pretty much just they had the story. Gotham by Gaslight is better as a story concept than as a story on its own, because
I agree.
You have. I'm not going to ask you if you have seen my video comparing the two together.
I have.
I've
seen it.
Okay, yeah, thanks. So you know the story in that story, it's pretty much like it's a story idea. It's not a story. It's just a story idea of what if Batman goes after Jack the Ripper or fights Jack the Ripper, and even Jack the Ripper. For example, the comic itself, it starts with a letter, like one of those letters that Jack the Ripper used to send to the press and the police when he was still active, and he brags about moving to America to fight Batman, but Batman is not a thing at that point when it's going on there.
That's interesting.
Some commentator on that video actually said that they could have used the original killer who was in the comic and expanded his story like that, or do it like in a Hitchcockian way, or like how Death Note did it, like have Batman be Al and have Jack the Ripper, or in this case Jacob Packer, be Light Yagami.
That would be
interesting. Like that. The audience watches and can't wait to see how they catch each or one tries to sneak behind one and stab them in the back, or if Batman manages to catch him before that happens.
That works. I like that.
Yeah, then they just turned Commissioner Gordon into being Jack the Ripper. Actually, this is something I had to look up because the writer who did it, he said that, I don't remember his name at the moment, but he said that he was trying to do that. It basically turned like a Sherlock Holmes story, because we had basically Batman be Sherlock Holmes, Alfred was Watson, Catwoman was Irene Adler, Dick, Jason, and Tim, they were essentially just Baker Street irregulars, and Commissioner Gordon, he was Inspector Lestrade, Professor Moriarty, and Jack the Ripper.
Interesting. So they basically try to amalgamate a bunch of the Sherlock Holmes characters together, essentially.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Also, and Commissioner Gordon's characterization was pretty much like from Stieg Larsen's Millennium book series. I'm sorry, I want to say this again.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, they turned Commissioner Gordon into man som hatar kvinnor, aka man who hates women.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. Yeah, that's
Pretty much.
Yeah, that was a weird part of that movie because I watched that one today, ironically. And it's interesting about that. And then Tevia says they gave Justice League Warworld an R rating, which failed. Justice League Warworld failed for a lot of different reasons. I haven't watched it yet, but that movie
Ratings
failed for a
was
lot
not
of
one of
reasons. Wait, yeah, exactly. I was about to say, JJheat, the R rating is not one of them. No. And a question. With the Robins, was that Tim Drake who got killed by Mr. Freeze? No, that was Jason Todd, essentially.
Yeah, they were all the characters in Grayson, Jason, and the team in the original comic. The team was just switched with the Kylie, who was like we said, an amalgamation of Tim, Cassandra, and Carrie Kelly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because
there you go.
Tim is too bland to carry his own IP, much like John Kent.
Particularly,
Hey, I gotta be honest.
Yeah.
I gotta be honest here.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention when there was a scene after Grayson and Jason were killed by Croc and Mr. Freeze. There was the Kylie came to see them. Essentially, her were brothers in arms, or brothers in work, or closest friends, or someone who she probably knew as close as her brothers, and had that reaction, and then we had Oliver comforting her. That scene would have looked probably somewhat weird if it was a male character.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I definitely agree with that one. But yeah. So let's see what else. But all in all, this ranks above in my top 5 favorite DC animated movies. My number 1 is Dark Knight Returns, both parts, because that is 100% the comic. Like, it's astounding how accurate to that comic they got with Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah,
I can't beat Dark Knight Returns, but Under the Red Hood is a close second.
That's my number 2. My number 3 is this. My number 4 is, I would have to say, Justice League Origin, because as a fan of the new 52 Justice League. Then number 5 is Throne of Atlantis because of the Super Wonder scenes.
I should probably do Throne of Atlantis next after I get the Under the Red Hood.
Yeah, it's
done.
a good one. That's a fantastic one.
Definitely.
Yeah, Dark Knight Returns is amazing. Yes, we know Battle of the Super Sons is your favorite, Tevia, but that's fine. What are your actually, you know what? That's a good idea, and I'll start with you, Pika. But I just want to instruct the audience. So, what are your top 5 DC animated movies? So, Pika, we'll start with you.
Okay, this is actually tougher than I think because I have looked into all the things and actually seen their flaws and strengths.
Mm-hmm.
So, scaling them up into some popularity is going to be. Okay, in a not any particular order. I need to do a video like that at some point. Let's put like the original DC animated universes, like Batman Sub-Zero is well. Let's put that there. Then let's put Under the Red Hood also there. Then Superman, Batman, Apocalypse. Let's put that also there because it was pretty much faithful to until the ending. Pretty much fell on its face, and
what about the ending was not accurate in that one?
They pretty much took all the superhero cameos out and replaced them with stock Amazons.
Okay, I see what you're saying there. Yeah, that makes sense. And I don't think about it, I'm like, yeah, there wasn't never that. Tevia says,
okay, I need to do a proper listing video at some point on most of them.
Mm-hmm. But Tevia says Under the Red Hood, Flashpoint, Public Enemies, and Apocalypse. He puts them in 2. All right, I'll allow that. And Gods and Monsters. That's a solid list. How about you, JJheat?
again, for me, this is no particular order. Dark Knight Returns, Mask of the Phantasm, Under the Red Hood. Superman and Batman Apocalypse / Public Enemies because they directly are linked to each other. One's a sequel to the other, so they're kind of tied. And I gotta say Tower of Babel or Justice League Doom because it's essentially. I mean, it does deviate from the source material. It pretty much turns. Instead of Ra's al Ghul being the main villain, it's pretty much Savage and the Legion of Doom.
And Superman is not given red kryptonite that turns his skin clear, as opposed to like being shot with a kryptonite bullet.
Yeah, and even I said it in my review of that comic and movie that like Ra's would have made more sense than Vandal Savage because who is Batman to Ra's al Ghul and who is Batman to Vandal Savage?
Yeah, exactly.
Pride is a sense of pride is definitely a theme, but even then, Ra's works better because he's literally the antithesis to Batman. Yes, we've had other characters play that role, like Joker.
Not to mention, sorry if I'm just speaking over you. Not to mention, in the Tower of Babel, Ra's was pretty much multitasking with his attack against the Justice League happening at the same time while he was doing the whole thing with the.
Contingency
taking the communicative abilities away from people and making them go into pandemonium. Ra's was doing that and both of those things at the same time. Vandal Savage, on the other hand, he sent his Legion of Doom to do their thing. Then they celebrated prematurely. He told them his origin story. They were just wasting time, and then Justice League showed up and to go surprise, fucker. And sorry,
it's all good.
And basically, Vandal Savage took the Justice League out of the board and then waited for them to come back before starting what his evil plan was.
That's good. I love that. Yeah, that's true. Daniel says War, Apocalypse, Throne of Atlantis, Batman The Long Halloween, Flashpoint, Wonder Woman. Okay. Daniel, here's the thing about Bloodlines. I like that movie up until the point they start bashing her relationship with Superman, which is like a lot of that movie. So I'm like, nope. Because it just seems very forced.
Think of it like this. It had already broken up off screen. The prologue scene was just before the events of war anyway. And by the time you get to events of present day, again, Superman and Wonder Woman had already broken off screen. Like, seriously. If you had gotten a Super Wonder reference, it probably would have been better for you. You've been waiting on that one, haven't you?
Yes, I have, dude.
Nice. But again, Wonder Woman Bloodlines is just, oh crap, we're ending this universe and we haven't done a single Wonder Woman film. Like, this was just crapped out in the span of 6 months.
Here's the idea. So Superman and Wonder Woman were together for like
3 years.
Yeah. They never made a Superman Wonder Woman movie. Exactly.
I mean, what kind of villain would you even have in a Superman Wonder Woman movie?
Zod and Feora. Do the power couple.
Feora could be there. You could also it has been some time since I read the New 52 Superman Wonder Woman comic, but even I remember the set pieces and action set and what action and storylines there were. What I remember the basic line of what was happening in those before Tomasi took over and did what you have been ranting about, Jared.
Thank you, I appreciate that. But yeah, they could have done Zod and Feora, bring those guys in, and then literally just recreate that first arc. Totally there, but no. But yeah, I hated that from the Death of Superman. Yeah, exactly. That's my thing. At least if you're gonna break them up, don't do it off screen.
Okay, which would you rather have? An off-screen omission of the relationship or an adaptation of Superman Wonder Woman Volume 4 to help contextualize the
adaptation? Because I'd rather see it and not have to go because I remember watching the marketing and I was so freaking confused when they started talking about, oh my gosh, Lois Lane is Superman's true love. And I'm like, wait a second here. This doesn't add up. And then I'm like, did they really break them up? Then I saw a clip on YouTube before I watched the movie of them talking about, yeah, our relationship was good, but you belong with Lois. And I'm like, DC, you're annoying me again. No, it just freaking sucks. But yeah, so I think that's a good place to leave it before I go on more rants. But PK, it was a pleasure having you on. You're always welcome. JJheat, it was good to have you for when you were here. But PK, so where can one find you, and what have you got coming out on your channel?
Well, I can be found here on YouTube under my name as Pika Shades, and like I've said already, I'm a few 10 minutes of visuals needed to be edited into my into that Under the Red Hood video. It's basically like, for those of you who haven't watched what I do, I take the comic books and then compare them to their animated adaptations. This year I have done Superman Red Son, Batman Year One, The Killing Joke. This movie we just talked about, Gotham by Gaslight, Superman vs. the Elite, Batman vs. Dracula, which wasn't actually even a comparison compared to begin with, and then I have been doing a Jason Todd trilogy. I have recently did Death in the Family, the comic compared to that interactive movie's first story building up to the whole thing. Then I also did Batman Hush, and I'm currently now working on editing the final, trying to put the video together on Under the Red Hood. Mm-hmm. And I had a poll which dictated what I'm going to do next. There's the Wonder Woman 2009 movie. I maybe do a review similar to what I did with Batman Ninja on it, and after that, either a comparison review, or actually I have another comparison review I have been also doing on the video game and these adaptations.
Nice.
How about you, JJheat?
As for me, you can find me at JJheat75, JJheat Plays. I'll be probably on CLD in about an hour.
Yeah.
So, and also look out this weekend for New Direction Green Arrow, where we actually tackle the New 52 despite Arrow synergy.
And I'm telling you, JJheat, we got to do New Direction Deceased. Because I got some ideas, sir.
Hey, I'm still working on the thumbnail, all right? I'll send it to you when I can.
I got new. I'll give you a hint. Deceased Doomsday.
Okay, we're really going off the walls with this one.
Whoa, that's actually because
that is such a wasted opportunity.
Can you blame me, JJheat, after God Killer Tick? You can't tell me this wouldn't be as big as
there
God
is Kingdom Hearts manga and the novelization.
Yeah,
there
is, but that's like the wasted opportunity there, because I'm like, okay, so you're telling me you could have Doomsday show up? What they could do? Here's my idea: when Doomsday shows up, it's like, this is the first appearance of Doomsday. He shows up as the apocalypse is going on, or like after the apocalypse happens, and then he starts fighting all the deceased superheroes.
That actually, but also looking at how the mind that Doomsday has, can he be corrupted into being one of them? Or
I mean, Lobo was immune due to having a healing factor, so I think Doomsday would be relatively similar.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it depends on if this is his first exposure to the equation, because remember, Doomsday is not vulnerable to the same thing twice. So if it's his first exposure to it, I think he'll turn into a zombie. Well, then again, Doomsday kind of acts like a zombie too. So there you go. But go ahead, Pika.
Yeah, Deathstroke had it because Deathstroke succumbed to it, and then he came out of it
because of his healing factor again.
Yeah, he was he was infected for I think about 2 days.
Yeah, but we'll answer that question next week. But in terms of Comics League, so we have CLD, which is in about an hour. So we'll talk more on that. So gentlemen, stay heroic, and we will see you guys next week. All right.
Super Wonder.
May your heart your guiding keep.
Thank you.